Hey, I've got a question for you. If I offered you your choice of $1 million or a penny that doubles every day for 30 days, which would you choose?
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Welcome to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf, back for another solo episode in our summer series. So as you ponder the opening question, which would you choose? Would you take the $1 million today, or would you take one penny that doubles every day for 30 days? Well, it depends. Do you want immediate gratification? Maybe you got that $1 million. Hey, a bird in the hand, right? Or do you want the penny that doubles every day for 30 days? Because if you take the penny, a lot of people might be laughing at you. Your family might say, you had $1 million and you turned it down for a penny, a doubling penny. But here's the deal. The math of that doubling penny would be worth more by day 30. It'll be worth like $5 million. And so here's the thing. That's the power of compounding. On the last episode, I talked about consistency compounds, and we talked about maintaining momentum and doing that through standards, processes, habits, metrics, measurements, etc., as a way to maintain momentum. And we said it's really the boring stuff. It's consistency over intensity. And I really wanted to pull the thread a little bit more on this topic of consistency and the discipline of consistency. Okay, so I used a quote in the last episode. Albert Einstein, a pretty smart guy in his own right, said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He said, he who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And so we're just talking today about taking the power of compounding and applying it to other aspects and other elements of your life, whether it's personal growth and development, whether it's learning, self-improvement, or to your company. And so let's talk about this penny situation again. You're going to get made fun of a lot in the first, 3 weeks. Man, you had a chance to take that $1 million and you got 2 pennies now. You got 4 pennies. You got 8 pennies. And so that's like part of the grind when you get started. When we talked about, generating momentum and that exit velocity has got to be so strong to get the flywheel moving. That's the best time because you're starting the trend line going in a positive direction. But that's when people might be joking and laughing at you and saying, you're so far away, you're never going to get there. You had this chance at $1 million. But you can laugh your way all the way to the bank if you're just consistent, disciplined, and maintain just those micro habits, those micro improvements, those micro rituals day by day by day. And it's not until, and you have to have this resiliency to wait it all the way out, because it's not until like day 26, day 27, day 28, on day 29, it's worth $2.5 million. And then it gets to 5 million. The day before that, it's not till like day 28 when you cross $1 million. And so that's the power of compounding. Think about this thing about consistency over intensity. And in the last episode, we talked about the concept of 20-mile marches. And we talked about how Jim Collins really talks about it. And so one of his books that you may not have heard about, everyone's heard about like Good to Great and Built to Last, or a lot of people have, but this one, Beyond Entrepreneurship. And then he reissued this, BE 2.0. And in it, he talks about his map, and he talks about the map to great companies. And here on page 162, he talks about the 20-mile marches, and he talks about achieving breakthrough with 20-mile march discipline. And I'm just going to read you a couple of excerpts here. To commit to a 20-mile march means setting forth a standard of performance to hit with relentless consistency. He goes on to say, the 20-mile march imposes order amidst disorder, discipline amidst chaos, and consistency amidst uncertainty. Some companies in our research hit their 20-mile march for more than 40 consecutive years without a miss. Committing to march with consecutive consistency achieves a beautiful genius of the and. It stimulates the discipline of short-term performance and long-term building. And so I just love that. You can achieve your results both in the short term and in the long term with this disciplined approach. I'll give you a couple of other reference books to think about, and I'm going to read a couple other things that are impactful. If you think about investors, Warren Buffett or other investors who have studied Warren Buffett or value investors, and you think about your assets that you want to grow, they know about the power of compounding. They want to compound their wealth, their income. There's a great book by Gautam Baid. I met this guy at the Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders meeting this past May, and he wrote this book and he signed it for me called The Joys of Compounding. So people who manage money, manage funds, they study, they learn, they know about the joys of compounding, the power of compounding. I'll give you a couple other ones that we've talked about here. We talked about Mark Batterson a lot on this podcast. And so if you want to make the days count the days. So win the day, one day at a time. Mark Batterson, and then a 30-day program to get started, do it for a day. And then William Green wrote a book, again, studying the great investors, Richer, Wiser, Happier. And it's all about just this boring, consistent discipline. I say boring, but you have to fall in love with the process, which we talked about last time. We talked about this. If you improve 1% every day within a year, you will have improved 365% at the end of a year. And that sounds pretty powerful, right? Yeah, 365%. That's pretty powerful. That's math. That's arithmetic. That answer is actually wrong. The power of compounding is not based off linear math. It's exponential. It's not 1 + 1 + 1. It's actually, you'll be 3,768% better due to the power of compounding. Because on day 364, you're not 1% better than day one. You're 1% better. And it's like that penny that just keeps doubling and stacking. You're 1% better than that day 363 person who's had all these micro gains and improvements. And so if that doesn't convince you, let me read you the Stonecutter's Credo. When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet, at the 101st blow, it will split in two. And I know it was not that 101st blow that did it, but all that had gone before. It just speaks to me to the power of compounding. And so that's why we say consistency compounds. That's why we say, on the tortoise versus the hare, be the tortoise. Make that consistent progress. That's why Jim Collins, when he studied all these great companies, it's the 20-mile march discipline. When he talked about the two teams trying to make it to the South Pole, it wasn't the one that tried to run and go out when the weather was nice and then stayed in when the weather wasn't. It was the ones who said, regardless, the standard is 20 miles a day every day. That's what's going to make it work. And so when you think about generating momentum, maintaining momentum, going after goals and standards and things of that nature, and the dreams that you have, it's this just consistency and it doesn't have to overwhelm you. It's just like embracing the power of a day, the 24 hours that you get, the 168 hours that you get in a week, and breaking that down and saying, how can I be consistent with my approach, with a disciplined approach? I don't have to be on fire, be 1,000% every single day. I don't have to go sprint a marathon every day. I just got to kind of take consistent, disciplined approaches every single day, put in standards, put in habits, and don't worry about the harvest. Manny loves this phrase. Just plant the seeds and till the soil one day at a time. That harvest will come. And you're not going to see it right away. You have to kind of prepare yourself for the patience, that resilient patience that Admiral Jim Stockdale says, I don't know when, but I know that it's going to happen. The stonecutter who says, I don't know when this rock is going to crack, but I know that if I keep chopping away, that this stone's going to crack. And so you don't know when exactly that the compounding is going to manifest into a beautiful, bountiful harvest. But if you keep being disciplined in your approach and making progress towards your goals and your incrementality towards your goals, you can win both in the short term and in the long term. And by the way, along the way of doing that, you're going to kind of build upon yourself. You're going to build disciplines and habits and standards that don't go away. And so you'll continue getting better and better slowly but surely. That's the whole flywheel discipline. The flywheel will start moving so fast, it's almost moving on its own and effortlessly, but it's because you have the the consistent approach and the enduring faith to say, well, you know what, I'm going to take this disciplined approach one day at a time, and I'm going to know that I'm going to get exponential returns because of the power of compounding. And so the power of compounding can bring magnificent exponential gains and goals to your life. I just would encourage you, don't get frustrated when you're in the midst of it, when you're feeling like a lag or a lull. Just believe and trust in the power of compounding, and that'll maintain your North Star, your discipline of where you want to go, what you want to achieve. And over a long period of time, that power of compounding will have exponential results. And that's why I said last episode, it will shock you by how far you will go with just this consistent compounding disciplined approach and the 20-mile march discipline. So that's today's episode, the eighth wonder of the world, the power of compounding applied to any aspect of your life, whether it's in business, professional, health or wellness, income or investing or personal growth and development, what have you. The power of compounding is real. And so just remember, consistency compounds. Thanks for joining us, and check us out next episode here at Stories from the River. Try to bring you fresh new content every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll get back to our regular interview series after we conclude this summer solo series. To make sure you don't miss an episode, make sure you mash that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your fresh podcast content. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.